If you've been following real estate news at all, there's all kinds of stuff going on about who is NAR and how awful are they, because the news always puts the best spin on everything. But I wanted to talk briefly about why use a realtor. This came straight from the UAR website, and so I'm going to steal your clicker. These guys, there we are. First of all, realtors abide by higher ethical standards. What makes a realtor different than a licensee? Honestly, what have you guys seen? Just really briefly. We have a code of ethics, but what else? We actually take seriously that fiduciary responsibility thing. It's a big deal. How many have been in the business less than 1 year in this room? We have a few hands going up. How many less than 5? Okay, more hands up. How about let's say more than 5, or let's say more than 10? Okay, bunch of hands just went up. One thing that makes us different at KW than other realtors, just that you know, is that you can go knock on someone's door and ask for help. I have literally had people tell me, I was at Brand X and I went to someone's door and said, "Hey, can I ask for some help?" The guy reached over and just closed his door right in their face and said, "Yeah, no." That's something we do, and that's part of our culture. That's part of what makes us different, and we help each other. We're not limited to my 20 years of experience or Novali's, 8-10 years of experience. We're not limited to that. We have a whole room full of people that will all work together and help. If I have needs and I already have a go-to, if I know Matt speaks Spanish, but if I have a go-to, I'm going to be Biana, because I've worked with her before. It has helped me dramatically in areas that I can't help with. If you guys need any help with someone who speaks Thai or Lao, I'm your guy. But not a whole lot of that in this valley, not yet. But anyway, just wanted to make you aware of that. So next thing, protect property owners. What does that mean? How do realtors protect property owners? Because it's nice and hoity-toity, but what does it mean? So our fiduciary agreements. Okay, so it's done legally and correctly. What else? Say again. Yeah, the Realtor Political Action Committee. We literally at the legislative levels, and at local, state, and national levels, we have people that lobby, that work for people to protect property rights. Access to legal resources. Anybody ever used the legal hotline? How many people have used it? Amber's the only one. Guys, we have access every day. You can call up at UAR. You can text me. I can send you that number really easily. But you actually have access to the attorneys that have helped to draft and to help craft the REPCs and the other contracts and the forms that we've created. And they know them inside out. And you can ask them general questions. They will not give you legal counsel. If you think you need legal counsel, I need you talking to me. And then we may engage our attorneys. I try my darndest not to, because they charge by the 10th of the hour, just saying. But you do have access to legal resources at the realtor level. The CEO of UCAR is an attorney. CEO of Salt Lake Board is an attorney. And we have 3 attorneys at UAR level. So it's kind of cool just to have some access. This could be questionable, but realtors can help you price your property. Do you price properties to sell, or do you say, "What do you want?" and put it out there? Hopefully you do somewhere in between the two, that we're pricing properties so that they will actually sell. It's important. And the next thing, realtors are skilled negotiators. If you ever get to this, and this is where most people will call me, and I may get them into trouble. No, we'll talk about it. It's always about a negotiation. I believe in keeping things simple. We only negotiate 2 different things. We negotiate price, we negotiate terms. And if you can think of it on those, is this price or is this a term thing? Is it something that I can live with, or is it something that's a deal killer? Those are things that just have that. Sometimes it's sipping back and taking a deep breath, but that's what we do as realtors. So anyway, just some of the things. you guys need to take your profession seriously. We certainly do at the leadership level in the brokerage, from our ownership and I hope that each of you treat your business like a business. Right now, I have been sending out a million texts saying, hey, I need you guys to make sure you pay your realtor dues so that you can stay. Because Friday, I don't want to be deactivating licenses, but I will because I won't have a choice. We've made a covenant agreement with the local association, with the state association, national association, that we will be realtors. So anyway, that's all I got.
Awesome. So are you guys okay if we turn up the heat for the next 30 minutes? Is that all right? Is that okay? Novely, do you have the key for the thermostat back there? I'm just joking. I'm kidding. So today is going to be an important topic. And well, first, before we get into that, next week, team meeting, don't miss it. Johnny and I are going to have just a simple conversation. We're going to actually do a podcast in front of everybody just about the science of wealth. I've got some interesting questions. I'd love to know some of his personal philosophies around wealth building. He's going to ask me about some of mine. We really want to make sure that we are giving as much value as possible to all the agents here at KW. And as you know, our three pillars that we focus on is life, business, and wealth. And one of the things that Warren Buffett talks about is that he says to be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. And that is definitely the next 2-3 years that we're going to be in, is one of those opportunities where you can, no matter what state you're in right now, really set a foundation for your family's financial future. And we want to help with that. So next team meeting, 11 a.m. You're welcome to invite anybody you'd like to come to that. It's going to be a packed house, but September 5th, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that's team meeting for next week. The conversation for today, I'm going to share with you an initiative that we're going to be rolling out in the office. And this is going to be something that you want to participate in. Those who don't, I promise you'll miss out. Okay, so you want to be able to engage with this. But we're first going to go through the market update, because this is going to add a lot of context to why we're rolling this opportunity out. So let's just look at the U.S. economy to start off. So here's an interesting perspective about what's to come. Okay, if we look at this index of recession probability, or the likelihood of us stepping into a recession in 2024, do the odds seem high or low? Pretty high, right? Now, those who are in the real estate space, I know what you're thinking. You're like, we've been in a recession, right? For the past year, it feels like. In transaction-wise, if you look at the number of units in the state and in the country, that is true. And one of the things that Gary Keller shared at MegaCamp was that he said this is kind of the first time he's seen something that he termed as a rolling recession, which is essentially that it may not be hitting all industries equally at one time, and it might just kind of roll from one industry to the next that's being impacted by the current economic state that we're in. Does that make sense? And so essentially, a lot of the real estate space has been hit this year. Even half of 2022, we started to see that trend. And yet there are different industries, if we look at some of these, that are having some massive growth year over year. Okay, so these are 10 different industries. Looks like the transportation and tourism industry somehow is just crushing it this year. But there's other sectors who are not doing great. And that's what I want to speak to. One thing that Cody mentioned was talking about the unemployment rate, right? And some of the things that are coming up with that. And one of the biggest indicators that we have to look at is GDP. So GDP is the gross domestic product. So that's how much inventory or sales revenue is generating in our economy. And if you look at the original term of a recession was what? We needed 2 negative what? Quarters of GDP. So have we had that in the last 2 years? Yes. And then what did they do? We changed the definition, right? We had to change the definition. And a lot of that has to come with some of the other indicators are still super healthy, okay, in the market. One of those being unemployment. We still have one of the lowest unemployment rates in history. Okay. And there's actually a reason why we actually don't want it to be around below that like 4.5 to 6% mark. Okay. So this is something that's interesting where if everybody who is able to work is working at the moment, and let me pair it with this slide. This is job openings. So if you look at the yellow line, this yellow line is the amount of jobs that are available on the market. This blue line shows the unemployment, the unemployed people. Okay. We have a lot of jobs on the table, and there's people who are unemployed. We're already at a 3.6% unemployment rate, which is actually super low. It's to unhealthy levels. Okay. And let me explain why that is. If there are no people available that you can go and recruit to work for your organization, okay, where do you actually have to go to find people? To existing organizations and steal them from other organizations. What typically, if you're in the same industry, do you have to incentivize people with to get them to switch companies? Higher wages. And with higher wages, what happens? More spending, more inflation, right? And so that's why it's actually a negative impact when we have too low of an unemployment rate. So that's why Cody said we're looking for some good news, right? Which is actually bad news for some people, that we want people to become unemployed because it helps with keeping those wages out of from not going out of control. Okay, does that make sense? So if we look at how does that impact the real estate industry, where are we at today, where are we headed the next year? This is something that was interesting. If you look at this slide, okay, when was the last time that we sold? And this is the projected number for this year for 2023, 4.3 million homes. When was the last time that we were that low on national sales? It's been over a decade. And previous to that, you can see it was about 1998, that we dipped that low. Okay. So the one good news is that Gary's perspective is that we probably can't go too much further from here. Like we're probably at the bottom of the market. The other side of that coin, though, is how long do we stay here? Right. And that's just anybody's guess. And so that's what we have to really prepare for and look ahead and say, well, if they're projecting that a recession could take place in 2024 in other sectors, how might that impact the real estate space? Okay. And planning ahead of that is the big key. Home prices. Now, these are national slides, just for context. So annual home prices, if we look at 2006 timeline, we were 21% above the trend line. Okay. This 4% trend line is kind of a healthy growth in home prices, okay, in home values. And in 2006, we were 21% above that trend line. If we look at where we're at today, we've kind of taken a step back, but we're only 7% nationally above the trend line. In Utah, we are a little bit higher than that, but this is just for some perspective to look at the national side of our home prices. We're not too far ahead of where rates should, or where home prices should be. Okay. If we look at the grand scheme of things. Now, mortgage rates. This is one of the greatest levers that the feds can pull to help with the unemployment situation and getting inflation under control. Okay. So the one thing that they can do is try to slow down the rate of people making purchases, right? And I don't know the specific statistic, but I know in a ballpark that when somebody buys a home, there are a lot of other purchases that are made, or a lot of money is moved through different industries, through title, through mortgage, obviously through the real estate agent space. And then think about when somebody buys a home, what do they then go do? What's the next biggest purchase? Furniture, a vehicle, right? So there's a lot of money that's moved when real estate happens. And so, of course, they want to slow down some of the money movement, not just in our space, but overall in different industries to slow down that inflation. Okay. So here's the reality is I remember having this conversation in it was probably like April or May of 2022. And we were in a room with 5 or 6 agents, and we said, and I was just really quoting what Gary Keller had said, that we could see interest rates in the 8s, right? And at that time, we're probably 4.5%. So like we're still in a pretty good space. And one of the agents said, do you think that really could happen? Could we really see anything above 6%? Right? And the reality is yes. And one of the things that Gary said in that conversation last year at Family Reunion was that to over anticipate, never underestimate what they could do to slow down inflation. So if you don't think we can see 8, 9, 10% interest rates, if we get into a bad position, that could happen. And that has a direct impact. Now, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to paint the picture of the reality, because one of the best things you can do in business is to anticipate versus reacting. Okay. Anticipate instead of reacting. And so that's the big key for what we're talking about. So if rates are the biggest lever that they have to pull, that can help with our inflation problem, also help with the unemployment problem, just know that could directly impact everyone in this room. Okay. You with me so far? We on the same page? Okay. How does that impact clients? Obviously with affordability. If you look at where we've gone just in the past 2.5 years, we've gone from roughly this is showing how much of what percentage of somebody's income they need to pay for their principal and interest on their new mortgage. Okay. So in 2020, it took 18% of somebody's income to pay for their mortgage. And in today's market, it takes 29% of their income. Almost a third of their income goes towards their mortgage payment. That's just principal and interest. Okay. So does that impact buyers? Does that impact how people feel about making a move in this market? Yeah, absolutely. Right. Now, if we look at the flip side of this, the question is, what's the good news? Okay. What's the good news with all of this? One of the realities is, not specifically this slide. This slide's not good news, but the next one is 89% of mortgages have rates 5% or less. Okay. Now, if you're feeling that some people are kind of frozen in place, that they're stuck saying, I don't know if I want to trade a 3.5 or 4.5 for a 6.5, 6.25, 7% interest rate and double the payment almost, right? We get that. And there are people who are motivated. There are people making transitions, right? Because of all the things that happen in life that cause people to move. And so one is finding the motivated, but two, it's being aware of this. Two things. Sides per agent. This is actually not a good side either. I'm forgetting the order, and I know it's just bad news after bad news, but we're going to get to the good one, Cody. Okay, Colby. So sides per agent has gone down significantly. If you look at 2013, we were at 9.8 sides per agent. So this is the amount of closings per agents in the business. As more agents have come into the industry, there's less deals to go around for everybody, right? And so if you look at the historical average, it's 10 closings per agent. And currently we're at 5.7. So about half of that. Okay. Yes, per year. And this is on a national scale. So not US or not Utah specifically. So if you look at this, shows actually the timeline of how many agents were added in a given moment. So in 2000 to 2007, 550,000 agents were added to NAR, and sides dropped from 13.5 to 7.5. So basically cut in half. And then if you look at 2008 to 2012, right? The last big shift that took place, 330 agents got out of the business. So what did that do to sides per agent? Allowed for a higher sides per agent. So it went up from 6.9 to 9.3. And then currently we've added 580,000 in the roughly last decade. And the new story obviously is to be told on what's going to happen the next 2 to 3 years, right? But we can kind of see a pattern there. Market volume per agent. Here's the good news. Okay. The market volume per agent, we're going to have the third best time in the last roughly almost 2 decades as far as volume, okay, per agent. And so the reality is, can you still hit your goals, your financial goals, if you just get clear about the strategies you need to deploy to get the amount of transactions that you want. And volume, so the amount of obviously the price per home that agents sell is significantly more today than it was 5 to 7 years ago. And that has an impact on your bottom line, what you take home. Here's some more good news. Where's the opportunity in this market? Okay. Does anybody want to take a guess if you were not at Mega Camp? Okay. What percentage of people own their homes outright in the country? What would be your guess? 40%, 19%, 10%, 30%? Okay. 39% own their home outright. Interesting. Good old Uncle Dave. 61% have mortgages. 31% of the 87 million households have more than 50% equity in their home. And then the other 30% have less than 50% equity in their home. Okay. Are you presenting options to these groups of people? Roughly 70%, 80%, almost. Colby. Mostly just old. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Hunter, will you run this to Peter?
1, 2.
Peter, will you say that once more?
I know. I don't want to.
So the reality is we are going to see the largest transfer of wealth in history over the next 5 to 7 years. And so as we see this generational shift happening, the question is what agents are going to be able to support people that are in that situation. So how are you actually helping people to transfer that wealth? Because most of that wealth is actually tied up in real estate. So who's the consultants that can help coach people through this? There's only one profession, us, right? So the reality is, the question is, are you actually preparing for that? Are you educating yourself to where you can help guide people through that conversation? Is Angie Fisher in here? Okay. So that's one thing I would highly encourage you to think about is what conversations are you having to find people in those situations? And then how are you helping them with that transition? Some people are the downsizing. Some of them want to pass their wealth on to their family. Like they need somebody to coach them through that process. Some people are not in that retirement age and they have a ton of equity in their home and they just need help understanding how they can transfer that either into rental properties, investment properties, or use that to make a lateral move. Sheila.
There's a huge opportunity in reverse mortgages as creative financing or there's a huge opportunity in reverse mortgages, which just I happen to do, with creative financing for those 62 or older because they can upgrade into 55 plus or someplace they really want to live out the rest of their days. And without going from no mortgage payment to a mortgage payment, they go from no mortgage payment to no mortgage payment. So that's something that is a real market right now for that creative financing piece.
It's awesome. Thank you. Any questions on these slides so far? Market update. Okay. So 70% of homeowners have at least 50% equity in their homes. Okay. So again, the question is, how are you being strategic with that information? So here's a reality. We're going to kind of shift gears now and get into the meat of this conversation. So that market update was for you to understand that we are going through some continued rocky times in the space, especially as winter is coming. Like literal winter is coming, right? And so we know that transactions typically do what during that timeline? They decline, right? For some, I'll say. Not for those who adjust their action steps, adjust their approach. So here's a good philosophy, is that it's not what happens in the market that matters. It's how you react to the market. Okay? It's not what happens in the market that actually matters in your business. It's how you react to it. So the question is, what are you going to do in the next couple months? Because everything you do in the next month and a half to 2 months is what pays the bills in fourth quarter, right? We know that our industry has a lag time of seeing the results of your labors. And so it might take 90 days to get your closings in the pipeline for people you contact today. And so really the next 8 to 12 weeks of your business really matter for fourth quarter and the rolling start into the new year. Okay. Who has a plan to set some goals for 2024? Anybody? Who says, I'm just done with setting goals for this year? All right. Okay. Yeah, cool. Who's going to be out of the industry? Unfortunately. The reality is, though, what you do today does have an impact. So the invitation is this. I'm doubling down. Our leadership is doubling down. And we're going to be doing a back to business boot camp. Okay. And it's called the Uncommon Business Bootcamp. And the reason behind that name, the Uncommon, is because we want people to have uncommon results compared to other people in the market. Okay. There are going to be people who have a decline in business in fourth quarter. There are going to be other people who turn up the heat in their business and have better results than they did in quarter three. Okay. Now it's all going to be tied to the activities, the actions that are being taken. So we're going to watch a quick video. Who's familiar with Emmitt Smith? Okay. Who's Emmitt Smith? One of the best running backs ever, right? Now, I don't know if any of you have seen this Reebok commercial, but it's probably one of my, and turn it up, we've got to hear him for sure. It's probably one of my favorite commercials, but I think it is so true for what we're about to step into.
2 MVPs, 2 rings. I've been working hard. Maybe this year I'll take a little time off. Yes, that was refreshing. All men are created equal. Some just work harder in the preseason. 2
That was refreshing, right? So here's the reality. Here's my belief is that what they said is all men and women are created equal. Some just work harder in preseason. Okay. The results that you get in fourth quarter and what you step into your business pipeline for 2024 is going to start in preseason, which is right now. And so if you want to either stay healthy, have a healthy business in 2024, or increase your production, it's going to be tied to the level of activity you bring to your business and the quality of activity as well. Because often we can feel like we're moving, but we're actually not getting any kind of traction, right? And so typically I had a good mentor early on. He said, Shoni, I was having a slump in my sales. And he said that, Shoni, you don't have to change much. You just have to change the right things. And that's typically what I see for most agents when I sit down, is that you don't have to make these massive changes. You just got to be focused on the right activities. Okay. So that's what we're going to be diving into in this boot camp. Here's a great quote by Hal Elrod. Said that once you take responsibility for everything in your life, you have the ability to change anything in your life. Okay. So a lot of people will say, well, my sales are down because of what? The market. Okay. That's the common response. Do you want to be common or uncommon? If you take responsibility and say, the market has shifted, I too must shift, I too must change the activities I'm going to take, you can be in a different position. Okay. There's actually agents in our office who are having their best year yet. So we know it's not the market. There are agents who do 40 to 60 transactions solo, and there are teams that will do 250 to 300 transactions this year. There's plenty of business to go around. So it's the activities that matter. Here's a great quote as well. To have unproportional rewards, we must take an over proportionate amount of action. So what I've seen in this specific industry in any kind of recessionary time period, it's not that the business completely goes away. It's that you have to do more actions or take more action to get the same or similar reward. Does that make sense? So if you closed 20 units in 2021, you might feel like you have to do double the work to close the same amount of units in 2022, 2023. Okay. And so taking an unproportional reward or actions to get to the rewards that you want is the key. And here's another one. If we want more than ordinary results in our life, we must be willing to do what's uncommon. Okay. Do is the key word. Last one is we must all suffer from, this is Jim Rohn. And of course, you guys have heard me quote him many times. I feel like he has a great philosophy on life. And one of the things he said is we must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons. Okay. So 1 year from now, you can decide what kind of pain you want to feel. The pain of just being disciplined through that time or the pain of regret for not taking the right actions. Okay. So here's the boot camp. Here's the QR code to register for it. It's going to be 8 weeks consistently. It's going to require 1 hour per week. Okay, let me repeat that. 1 hour per week inside the classroom. And then, of course, there's going to be some massive activity that you're taking outside of the classroom. Okay. This is something that we're putting a lot of time and attention into. So I promise it's going to be valuable. This is essentially in replacement of Bold for our office. The region is not doing Bold this year, so this is kind of our own spin on that. And instead of it taking 5 hours every week in classroom, it's going to be 1, but it's going to be super impactful. We're going to have guest speakers. Here's some of the ingredients for success or things that will be a part of that experience. Learn before you earn. Okay. Oftentimes, learning about the best practices, the approaches that are working in the market is the most important key. So instead of just doing what you're doing and getting the same result, why not make some adjustments and have a better outcome? Okay. So we'll have some guest speakers. We will send out a weekly video of value for those who are enrolled in the program. We will be doing MOFers done for you. So part of that boot camp is us actually going to be showcasing some different MOFers through text, email, phone calls. MOFers stands for make an offer for immediate response. So basically, we're going to, as a team, craft the best offers that we see are working and then present them to you in that boot camp and say, go deploy. Whatever ones you want to use, if you want to copy this text message, this email, all that stuff we'll have ready for you. The marketing pieces will be ready. And all you have to do is copy, paste, send, right? Or use the conversation if you're going to do phone calls. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to win in this next quarter. Accountability and tracking obviously will be part of this. So we will be tracking the stats for everybody who's participating in this. Those that do have the highest growth in their under contracts, there will be prizes. We'll be doing kind of a rookies bracket / an experienced agent so that it's an even playing field. There will be some healthy competition. It's going to be fun. And the focus is growing your Q4 and Q1 pipeline. There is a refundable entry fee. So there is an investment for this. Okay, you've got to put skin in the game. And that's because we are, again, putting a lot of time and energy into this. And so my commitment is that it's going to impact your business. Your commitment is that you have to show up and you have to do the work. If you show up to the eight weeks and you do the work for the 8 weeks, you'll get a refund of that money. Okay, because what we really want it to do is impact your business. Will you get Peter, Mike? And so if you don't show up, you don't do the work. So if you make that commitment and you don't play full out, you won't get a refund. Okay, but it will go towards a good cause. If you're filling out that form already to register, one of the invitations is there's actually 3 ways to participate. One is by a $50 refundable commitment. Number 2 is a $50 donation towards Mason and his family, who was our agent that passed away earlier this year. So you can make a $50 donation to his family. Or the third option is a $250 investment, and we'll call it the VIP experience. I won't tell you much about that one right now, but I'll tell you it's going to be valuable. Okay. So any of those options, the $250 VIP experience is not refundable. The $50 one is. Okay. Peter.
Can you clarify the in-person commitment, day, time, week?
Yeah. So on that, it's either going to be the 11th or 12th that we start, which is a Monday or Tuesday. On that survey, if you're registering, one of the questions it asks is either it's going to be 8:30 on Monday mornings every week here at the office, or it's going to be Tuesday mornings at 9:30, and basically we can just roll right into team meeting afterwards.
So just once a week,
Yeah, once a
for
week.
8 weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
There will be homework, so there will still be activities you have to do outside of the classroom, but it'll be 1 hour in the morning to kick off your day, and it's going to be valuable. Okay. Any other questions about the boot camp? Okay, awesome. It will be fun in December to look at the results for all those who went through this and to see the impact that it's had on their business. The biggest, I'll tell you my perspective, the biggest ROI or return on your investment is going to be just associating or putting yourself in the room with other people who are committed to a similar cause, okay, or committed to a similar outcome. So I know that the best of us in this room are going to come as far as those who are participating in leading this. We're going to bring the energy. We're going to bring some valuable resources for you. So please participate. Cool. Okay. Last thing is think big for your future. And it's actually Gary's shirt that I think is the most impactful for this is be uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. Okay. That's what we've really got to commit to in the next 3 to 4 months to just lay a solid foundation.